How is it going, everyone? Welcome back to another live stream on the channel. It has been a while since I did a live stream. I've been predominantly doing videos the past few weeks, but we're back with a live stream. A lot has happened since the last live stream that I did. But today, we are going to be talking about the current market. We're going to be looking at the best high conviction altcoins to be stacking right now for the next leg up, which I still believe will happen. I don't believe the top is in for Bitcoin. I don't necessarily think we're going to 200K or anything like that, but I don't think the top is in. I think we've got one more run at some point, probably in the next few months, before the true implosion, which will happen mainly in 2026, but maybe even some of it will occur in 2025. So that's my stance on the market. You know, we can go sideways for another few weeks, whatever, but I do think a lot of the negativity is now getting priced into the market, especially when you look at the tariffs. I mean, you know, how much worse can it really get? You've just had even worse news today with the tariffs on China, and yet the market hasn't really dumped too much. So, I mean, it has dumped, but it hasn't gone to new lows, right? So it kind of is showing that maybe the worst is behind us. And while it still will be, you know, up and down and volatile, we are maybe looking to a more positive future. Okay, so that's my stance on the market. We're going to go through a few charts here because some really, really important things have happened with the charts since the last video or stream I did. And we've been following in the VIP, the Gaussian channel on the weekly very, very closely with Bitcoin. And I sound like a broken record to the VIP members because I mention this basically every single day. Because it is such an important indicator for the chart, and it's held up so well in the past. Okay, I'm going to show you this indicator on the weekly, and I'm going to show you that if this was the bottom, when we finally do break into this Gaussian channel, you want to be selling everything because it will act as the perfect symbol for the beginning of an altcoin season, for the beginning of a bear market, not an altcoin season, the opposite of that. So if you look at this channel here, you can see during the 2021 bull market dump, we came down to the channel and we used that as support. That was the point in which we bounced. Then we came back again, used it as support. Then we bounced. And then when we finally got into it, we came out the other end and went all the way down to 15K from the point in which we entered it being 48K. So it held up really, really well last cycle to the T. I mean, if you were buying it on bounces of the Gaussian channel, you were buying really nice prices on Bitcoin. The same goes for this cycle, guys. You can see that during the summer crash, Bitcoin came as low as 48K. Where did that number happen to be? It happened to be on the complete upper band of the Gaussian channel. Similarly to right now, Bitcoin came down to 75K, 74K, something like that. Where is that? Well, if you zoom in, you can see that that is right on the Gaussian channel. And right now, we're actually above that. So we're in the clear as of right now. But the thing we need to be a little bit concerned about is the Gaussian channel is coming up. So the longer that you spend in the 70s, the higher the chance of a sustained kind of close in the Gaussian channel, and you stay there for multiple weeks or days, which we don't really want, okay? A little blip, a little wick, that's fine. That's an exception. But if you're staying in this Gaussian channel for multiple weeks, that is where people start to think a bear market is upon us and people start to sell. But as of right now, we have held it. We've used it as support, and it looks like we are starting to begin the next leg up. And I think it looks very, very similar to last cycle. People say this cycle is different. People say, you know, you shouldn't compare to last cycle, blah, blah, blah. But it's very, very interesting how similar it looks. Last cycle, we had a massive dump during the middle of the bull run, followed by one final leg up. Where did the dump end? It ended in the Gaussian channel. And then we had one marginal high. Something similar to me looks like it could be on the cards. Okay, a marginal high on this trend line, which stretches all the way back to 2017. This is a very long-term trend line that has been used multiple times. In fact, both highs of this cycle, the 107 and 109K, both of those were on the trend line. Both of the highs from last cycle were on the trend line and the 2017 high. What are the odds that it tops out on that trend line? I think it's very possible. Not guaranteed. Nothing's a guarantee. It's crypto. But I think the chances of a top around that trend line later on in the year are pretty likely. If you look at the short term for Bitcoin, it doesn't look too bad at all. We made a double bottom there. And if you go and throw the fib on, you can see that, we maybe have a little bit more room for downside. Maybe we come down to 77K and then get a bounce. But it's not looking too bad at all right now in the short term for me. CPI just came in better than expected. But we did obviously just get some worse news about tariffs, additional tariffs on China. I'm just sick of it all, to be honest, at this point. Tariff. Seems like it's all that gets mentioned in the news, and eventually the market will price it in because it's just here to stay. It's the new normal, right? In a way. So just like when the Russia-Ukraine war happened, obviously it was bad for markets, but eventually they learned to price it in and the market moved forward. And I'm not trying to understate the impacts of tariffs. So obviously bad for markets, but eventually things are going to improve. Trump wants the markets to do well. And I think the fact that he actually pivoted yesterday showed that he's looking at the markets. He cares about the markets a lot and he wants them to do well. He doesn't want to crash them into a bar. So yeah, that's kind of my thoughts on the current market. I'm going to show you my high conviction plays right now. These really are the main four: Sui, Casper, Tau, and Ondo. But I put together a little list here. You guys remember I used to do these very frequently, kind of chart with the different coins, like a spreadsheet. So those are my highest conviction plays: Sui, Casper, Tau, Ondo, Sei, and Render. Those are my high conviction plays right now. And then I've got some honorable mentions, which maybe aren't as high conviction, but I still think they'll do pretty well this cycle. So yeah, we're going to get into the comments. I'm going to take a look at a few charts as well. Ondo, if you haven't already, go and watch my video on it. I made a video on Ondo yesterday, and I think it's going to have a very nice run. It's going to have a very, very nice run, this bull run. So go and watch that video I made when you get the chance. Also, there is a current sale available on the VIP group. I highly recommend that you take advantage of that because, it's not often you get to join a group of this quality at the price that it's going to be. There should actually be a pretty big discount, okay? Biggest discount I've done in a long, long time, probably ever. The reason I'm doing this is because the markets are struggling right now. A lot of people don't have the cash at hand to join a group, but they want to join anyway. And I understand there's a lot of you guys who watch the channel who could be very valuable members to the group. You could be active members and joining the voice chats and getting a lot out of the group, but you just can't afford it because of the current market circumstances. So I'm willing to, give people a little bit of a discount for their first month. Highly recommend you utilize it because you won't get this chance again to get in at such a cheap price. And this group, we're active all the time. I was in a voice chat yesterday twice. Pretty much the whole day I was in the voice chat for about 8 hours. So if you like the sound of that, if you like the sound of being able to talk to me basically one-to-one in a voice chat, then go ahead and join. You get all sorts of other perks as well. 24-hour, 24/7, chats, buy alerts, sell alerts, all of that good stuff. Okay, so go check it out. There's a discount available if you click the link in the description. So let's get into some of the comments. Hopefully everyone is having a great Thursday. Hope you're all doing well. Get your questions in. Okay, let me just move my camera up a little bit here. There we go. Yo, Archie, proud lifetime VIP. Just wanted to ask you what your take is on the RWA sector. As I saw it was rallying hard yesterday, are you going to increase your exposure? Thanks as always. So shout out to Dave being a lifetime VIP. There is a discount available for anyone else who's interested in lifetime VIP. But yeah, man, appreciate you being on the VIP. And as for your question, I think RWA will have a good run this cycle. I think it's maybe a little bit premature for it to be like the dominant sector of the cycle. It's still got a bit of, time for it to get to that level. But I think it will be a good sector to hold. Not necessarily the number one sector by any means, but I think it will do very well. The problem with RWA is there's not a great deal of quality projects. There's maybe 2 or 3 projects which are actually decent. The vast majority of them, I would say, are a little bit underwhelming. Whereas other sectors, perhaps, if you look at like just chains in general, layer ones in general, there's maybe 20 good layer ones. Or if you look at gaming, there's maybe 5 or 6 good gaming coins. AI, maybe there's 3 or 4 different good AI coins. But with RWA, I'd say it's a little bit more limited. But the ones that are there that are good are really, really good. So Ondo would be one example. This is a high conviction play. This is one you can go a little bit more heavy into than maybe lower caps. And I think it's got a nice amount of potential this cycle. I'm targeting the 2.618 on Ondo. I think it can easily go to the market cap of H-bar's all-time high, which would put Ondo around $4.50. Now, that is like my base case. My conservative case would be like $3, and then my bull case would be like $7. So anywhere between $3 to $7, I can see Ondo going. It all depends on how good of a bull run we get, right? Is it going to be a marginal high for Bitcoin, or is it going to be a blow off top mega moon high, right? That's the real question. That's the $1 million question. I mean, if I'm leaning to one side, I'm leaning to like the 115 to 125K argument as opposed to the 150 plus argument, right? I think the damage has been done, unfortunately, to a lot of the economy. I don't think we're going to have, some of the blow off top prices that some people are expecting. Now, that doesn't mean you're not going to make a ton of money. You'll definitely make a good amount of money if you're buying at some of these prices into quality coins, but maybe instead of a 50x like some YouTubers might be promising you, maybe it's more like a 5 to a 10x, right, on a lot of these coins. You got to be more realistic. There's a ton of moon boys out there. It's very rare that I get called a moon boy because usually I'm much more conservative with my targets, and it's done me quite well. I'm going to be honest, because with meme coins, I was maybe only up 5 to 15x on a lot of meme coins, but I was taking profits on them anyway. Even though I wasn't up 100x like some people maybe were, I was taking big profits. And what's funny in a way, and I'm not trying to laugh at people losing money because that's not funny, but what's interesting is some people who were up 100x at one point, whilst I was only up 10x, they're now down. Like their 100x is now like break even or whatever, right? Because the market's crashed so much. So I actually ended up bringing out a lot more money despite me never hitting 100x on memes this cycle. I kept getting little 5, little 7, little 10x's here and there. They all added up and I cashed out. Other people, however, they were up 50x, 100x. They didn't take profits. They ended up making less money than the guy who was only up 5 to 10x on some coins, right? So I do have a tendency to be more conservative, and it treats me well, to be honest, especially when it comes to higher risk coins like memes. I was pulling big profits out of meme coins at like 5 to 15x's, Mumu, and many others. And some, it was only a 2x, like Harambe, Sigma, some of these ones, just a 2.5x, took profits out, happy days. I'm not complaining. But some people are too greedy. They always want 100x, and they're never happy with what they get. You need to take profits conservatively. Hello from Malaga. How's it going, man? Casper and Ondo, great picks. What's up, Archie? How's it going? Yeah, you can't be focusing too much on the day-to-day, my friend. Like, you've got to have the bigger picture, the longer term mindset. If you're checking these charts day to day and it's affecting your mood, it's just not going to treat you well, this market, right? Because it could go up and down, up and down, up and down for another 4 weeks, realistically. It could do that another month, another 2 months. If you can't handle the day-to-day swings in crypto and the volatility, you should probably just go and buy bonds, right? Or gold, or the S&P 500. This is a risky, volatile market, and one day you'll be at 82K, the next day you'll be at 77. I mean, that's the kind of swings you see. You just got to, suck it up, see the bigger picture, and remain grounded. But I'm not going to try and, pull the wool over people's eyes. This market has been, difficult. It has. The last few months have been brutal for a lot of people. Now, even though I did cash out a lot of profits and I did, increase my dollar holdings as opposed to crypto holdings, I felt a lot of a loss as well. I've lost a ton of money in the last few months, but it's unrealized. And I don't know about you, but I think this market's going to come back. If history shows anything, it shows that it will come back. Now, the problem is, I'm saying it's going to come back. I'm maybe talking about 120K Bitcoin. I'm not talking about a 200K Bitcoin that some people are. Right? So the reality is Bitcoin will be at 120K and a ton of people won't be taking profits because they're hoping for higher prices. And my job is to make sure that as many of you guys who watch the channel actually end up taking profits and make some good money. Hit the likes on the stream, 100%, guys. If you want more live streams, hit the likes, okay? Because I'm always torn between live streams or videos. If you want more streams, then hit the likes on the stream. How high do you think Tau can get to? I'm thinking at least 2,500 on the low side. That's pretty optimistic, man. On the low side, you think a 10x? You've got to be careful calling for 10x's as a conservative target at this point in the cycle on top 100 coins. I'm not saying it won't do that. I'm just saying you've got to be careful with some of these targets, man. Let me just do from this to this. So a lot of altcoins tend to go for the 2.618, which is around 1.7K for Tau. I think that's very doable. Now, obviously, in the past, I probably would have expected more for Tau. But a lot has changed in this market, The dynamics have changed. Like, sure, can Tau hit 2,500? It can. It can do that. But would I say that's my personal conservative target? Probably not. Because we need a lot of stimulus in order for that to happen, probably, right? So it all depends on your Bitcoin target. Like, if you think Bitcoin's going to 150K, then sure, Tau can do that. Dead easy. But if you think it's maybe only topping out at a marginal high, then, maybe it's not going to do that. Peak. No, it's on the list. It's on the list somewhere. I hold a fair amount of coins, so Peak isn't in my top 7, but it's in my top 15. Working and watching the stream. Nice, man. Multitasking. Hyperliquid. I think Hyperliquid's decent. You just got to ask yourself, will it fulfill the gains that you need? Hi, Archie. I feel I'm overweighted in, say, 30% of my portfolio. Should I rebalance or wait? 30% is way too much in my view, right? At the end of the day, you do you, but I would never go more than 10% in Say. Say is a great coin. I hold it, but I hold it as like 5% of my portfolio or less, right? I'm not holding 30%. Even Sui. Sui is my highest conviction coin right now. Like, it's the one I think is the most guaranteed to like perform this cycle. Casper is the coin I like the most. I like Casper the most, but Sui is the one I think is the most guaranteed to succeed. Like, it's the most set coin. In the top 100, if I'm betting on a coin to perform like Solana last cycle, I'm betting on Sui, right? So let's just get that out of the way. 30% in Sui is like the upper limit I would probably accept in Sui. Say, No way would I go 30%. You know, so you've got to understand certain coins are more guaranteed than others. Certain coins are riskier than others. Sei is a lot more risky than Sui. So I would always make sure whatever you've got in Sui is more than Sei, because Sui is a lot stronger. Yeah, market's very mixed right now. I mean, there's no point in checking it too much day to day because it's just gonna cause unnecessary emotion in a lot of people, right? A lot of people can't handle the swings in crypto, so you're probably better off just setting some limit orders and just buying on dumps, you know. But it is important to talk about potential invalidation, right? Because you can't just keep dumping forever. At some point, the dumps get so bad that they invalidate the bull run. Now, I want to ask you guys, because I have my take on this. We talk about this every single day in the VIP, nonstop, 8, 9, 10 hours a day. But I want to ask you guys, at what price do you think Bitcoin needs to get to for you to say, we're done? The bull market's over. We're going into a bear. What price does Bitcoin need to hit for you to say it's over? We're in a bear market. I have my range that I'm looking at, and I'll tell you in a minute. But I just want to see what the general consensus is, because I assume there's going to be a big range of views. Some people might say we could go as low as 50K. Some people say 70K, 74K. You know, I'm interested to see what you guys think. Someone said 135K? I don't think you understood the question, buddy. I don't think you understood the question, Mohammed. Bro, no, you didn't understand the question. Why are you putting 135K twice? The question is, what price does Bitcoin need to get to for you to say the bull market is over? For you to say that it's a bear market, right? An invalidation level. So Fetcho says under 60K. Mohammed says 135K. Delivery with Shaggy says 40 to 50K. Again, someone didn't understand the question. Maybe I phrased it wrong. I mean, if two guys misunderstood the question, then maybe I phrased it wrong. Maybe it's my bad. Close the weekly candle under 68K. I think we might be done. If we broke 60, I would say it's over. Okay, so my take on this is if you're going based on the Gaussian channel, we're basically on the edge of a cliff right now. I mean, if you're going based on that. Now, I'm not going to go only on that because it is just one indicator. But if you're going based on the Gaussian channel, we cannot close this week. We cannot close this week below like 76K, really. I mean, you're going to give a little bit of a bit of leeway, right? A margin of error, because if it's a 1% close, I mean, it's a margin of error, right? But if you're closing like 2 or 3% into the Gaussian channel, 4% in, like a 74K, that looks pretty bleak, okay? Because pretty much every time that has happened, you've come out the other way and entered a bear market. So that would mean you'd come out the other way and maybe go down into the 30s, right? If that was to happen on a weekly close, like a close down there, based on probabilities. It's not a guarantee, but based on probabilities. Now, if we look at like clear potential support levels, right, that if you break below, it could be carnage. I would personally be looking at the March high as a very, very key level. And I've talked about this. I've talked about this for months on the channel. If you break below 91K, I've been saying since day one, if you break below 91K, the next level is 74. That's the next key level. A break below 91, The next key level would be 74. I've been saying this since we broke below 91K, or since that was approaching. And anyone in the VIP group, you know, because I mentioned it on the call every single day, that we broke below 91, which is this kind of orange band here. We're seeing 74 most likely. Now, we've got very close. We basically hit that level, and we formed a double bottom on the chart, like I showed you earlier. My view is a break below 74K, a close below 74K, as in on Sunday night, you close below. So, for example, you close where that orange circle is. A close below 74K would most likely put us into the beginning of a bear market, in my view. Now, you could maybe stretch that to 70K based on the previous all-time high of 2021. You could maybe stretch it there. The problem with that is how much you're into the Gaussian channel at that point. You're well into it. So I would accept a wick down to 69K. A wick would be fine. But a close, I'd be very, very cautious, right? So it all depends if it's a wick or a close. You could wick down to 69K and then bounce up, and that's the bottom. Fine. A weekly close at 69, I'm going to be very worried, personally. Okay, so anything below 74, below 70, I'm probably thinking it's done and dusted. Luckily, we're not there yet. Okay, luckily, we're actually holding pretty well. We're above the Gaussian channel. And if you go and look at the short term, we just had a double bottom. We just had a really, really nice, clean double bottom, basically on the support that I outlined, basically on that 74K, which I said was very important because it's the March high. So a really nice double bottom on the March high, above the Gaussian channel. On the weekly, I think we're looking fine if we hold, right? And you've got to be aware the Gaussian channel is creeping up day by day. Bro, I just don't deal with this type of language, you know, guaranteed 100x. The moment you say guarantee and 100x in the same sentence, I'm switching off. Nothing's a guaranteed 100x, my friend. As much as you love Casper and I love Casper, nothing's a guaranteed 100x. It's like when some people say Bitcoin's a guaranteed 50x. No, it's not. You know, nothing is a guaranteed 50x, 100x, 200x. That type of language just gets people wrecked. We'll see, man. 4 to 8 years down the line, we'll see. I mean, anything can happen. One of my thoughts on the Fed cutting rates, I think they cut in either May or June. The problem is these tariffs create so much uncertainty for the future. It's going to be very hard for the Fed to like plan ahead, right? Because they don't know, because so much is up in the air. So if they're making a decision based on the future, I would say they're going to be more cautious, realistically, because the future is uncertain. So I think most likely they do not cut in May and they cut in June. That's what I think. They're not going to cut in May, but they're going to cut in June. That's what I think. But it's changing every day, my friends. So we can never know truly. But most likely they don't cut in May, they cut in June. And that'll be a catalyst for a pump. And then who knows, by June, July, we could be at all-time highs potentially. All right, guys, that wraps it up for today's stream. It was a quick one, but pretty much got everything I needed to say out of the way. Go ahead and join the VIP group. I'm going to be hosting a group voice chat tonight. So make sure you're there for the voice chat. There's a massive, massive discount available on the VIP. Not the current price you're seeing, but lower, okay? This is a recession discount, whatever you want to call it, right? This is a special discount. I'm allowing people to join at the lowest possible price I've given. Yeah, make sure you guys attend the voice chat later on today. We're going to be talking the markets, looking at some altcoins, talking strategy. We go in a lot more depth in this group, okay? So if you're interested in that, joining a network of like-minded people. There's hundreds of people in this group, you know, maybe even like 500 people in the group, constantly talking about the markets every single day, joining voice chats, VIP live streams, special videos. There's a personal analyst you'll have in the group for TA. So if you have any requests with a chart that you want to get some TA on, drop it in the group. You're going to get an instant answer. Okay. Show you this just to prove it. Chart requests. So someone asked for Sui. You know, he went and showed the chart on Sui. Someone asked for GOAT. Showed the chart on GOAT. Explained his reasoning, what he thinks about it. This group is great value for money. If you're operating in the crypto space on your own, give yourself that competitive edge. Give yourself that competitive advantage and join a group of this quality, okay? So the link's in the description. Great discount available. And yeah, guys, I'll see you over there. Appreciate all of you as well just for watching the stream. Smash the likes if you enjoyed. And yeah, have a great rest of your Thursday, guys. Appreciate you. And if you're in the markets right now and you're holding strong, I'm sure you're going to be rewarded in the long run. So yeah, have a good one, guys. Goodbye.